Oh, goodness.
All right, we should be live and ready to go. Might need a refresh. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, I'm looking at, I'm not showing. Yep, there it is.
Oh, okay. Well, take us away.
All right. Good morning and welcome to another live stream from Tyru Studios on this, the second day of June 2025. Our host today, as always, is Sean Tyru Head, and I am your humble live stream doula, Linus Liume Callahan. We have a great stream planned for you today, but before we get started, we do have an important public service announcement for all of our listeners, especially those living in the U.S. The United States National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, that's NOAA, their Space Weather Prediction Center, which, I mean, believe it or not, that is a real job, has confirmed that a violent solar flare erupted late Friday night, launching a cloud of highly charged particles known as a coronal mass ejection, or CME, toward the Earth. The Space Weather Agency has issued a severe geomagnetic storm watch for June 2nd. Now, of course, it's June 2nd for us, but that's, tonight for you guys. In an advisory release to the press, NOAA forecaster said that the CME will likely reach the Earth late Sunday evening and lead to immediate geomagnetic disturbances of G3 or G4 level, which is pretty good. Storm conditions are expected to peak Monday before gradually subsiding on Tuesday. So while this is no Carrington event, it is still a good idea to disconnect and shield any sensitive electronic equipment and make sure you are prepared for interruptions of electricity and cellular service. On the plus side, the aurora borealis, the northern lights, may be visible across much of the northwestern United States beginning Sunday night. So there will be some great photo ops out there. Just you're not, maybe not with a digital camera. So, are you all prepped for the for a CME, Sean? Got food, water, blankets,
So
tinfoil hats.
I thought the CME would. I thought when you were talking about this before the show, it was like concerts and or concertos and maestro experts event. So I got my suit on, and now I realize there's nothing to do with it. And I
Right.
was like, "Oh, we're going to the CMEs." I didn't know what that was, but I thought it was a big deal, and I thought I was invited. But now I realize, so I have a
Well,
wardrobe mishap here.
you are invited uh, by being on Earth, but beyond that, CMEs. We've talked about them a little bit before, but we are in the middle of a solar maximum, and that is a big deal for space nerds. The this solar cycle is solar cycle 25. That's just in reference to the number of solar cycles we've actually observed,
Hmm.
and they actually are predicting that this solar maximum was supposed to last until well into July, but they're beginning to think that maybe it's already peaked and is starting to head downward again because it already exceeded the predictions for this time of year. So they're thinking maybe it's already kind of done what it's going to do and is mellowing out. But yeah, coronal mass ejection is like one of those things that no one talks about. Oh, you should be prepped for. You should be prepared for.
Mm.
Everybody needs to have a way to shelter their electronics.
I have
And
my
I mean,
tin.
unless
I have my tinfoil hat. Does that help me?
that's good. That's good.
Okay.
Unless the event is truly massive, a simple surge protector on your power strip is enough to protect your
That's
electronics.
impossible in Japan. Japan, look, the entire place will go up in flames. There everything is wood kindling. That's how I view the houses here. And then when you look at the actual setup, we have exposed wires all over the place. And you'd think, "Oh, those are wrapped, aren't they?" No. They aren't. They're
Yeah.
exposed and out. And so if there's something that does surge, I mean, all of it is going up in flames. So, it's going to be fun times. Very, very fun times. So, but we do have a lot of stuff to talk about today about Shakuhachi. But before we even move on with that, Okay, now at least we could say that we've played Shakuhachi just in case. So
That's right. That's
it's,
right.
it's very important that we make sure that for the Shakuhachi live stream that we actually have Shakuhachi that's happening. So
It looks like you've got quite a few people in the chat already, and they're
yes,
commenting on your look and also your hair. Uh,
yes,
Eric Eric says you have a nice coiffure.
yeah.
What's that like? I don't remember having hair.
Um, there's pluses and negatives to it. You know, like you do have to take care of it and stuff, and I kind of was looking for like it looks like I'm wearing a toupee, but I don't have a toupee kind of look. I
Mm,
think it's
yeah.
working.
You've got your own line of toupees, don't you? This is the Sean Taidu Head Toupee Studio.
Yeah, they're actually just skin caps, so it makes you look like you're bald.
Oh, nice.
So
Nice.
yeah, people think they're toupees. They're not. I mean, just a little bit of fuzz on the top of them to give the appearance that you're not like wearing a skin cap, but that's the whole thing. But that's a whole other business and a whole other.
Svenja comments that I actually have a lot of hair, which is true. It's just all on my face,
Yeah,
not my
moves
head.
down.
I always tell my children that my hair is not actually falling out. I'm not going bald. My hair is just migrating south for the winter.
So we do have some things that we have to talk about, and just want to remind everybody that you're welcome to write your questions into the live chat, and we will get to them today.
Yep.
We're gonna be more live chat focused this time around. So please ask your questions. We do have a new person here, General Ocean Wolf, Tuki World Order, Tuki Taliban. Okay, he says hello.
I noticed that screen name also, and I was like, all right, there's a story there.
There's a story there. There's something happening there. So, anyways, let's go ahead and go to our first topic today, and then we'll let the questions hopefully proliferate in the chat, and if not, we still have other things we can talk about. So, take it away.
Sure. Well, let's do a little bit of housekeeping.
Sure.
First, we do have some flutes for sale.
Yes.
Uh, that if you want to highlight what remains. I know some things sold over the week.
Yes. So we do have all of the odd size flutes that are still available. Now, I'm not expecting those to sell quickly because they are the odd sizes. But just to be aware that they are available. So if you are interested in having a much shorter flute, you can go and check that out. I have a 1, 3, 4, 5, 7, and 9. And you can use the promo code odd size love to get 10% off on all the purchases for those flutes. Then we also have some longer ones, the 1.9, I suppose that's a longer flute, and the 2.1 that are also there too. The 2.1 is not necessarily an odd size because a lot of people do use it, but that one's still 10% off as well. A
Hmm.
very, very nice flute. That one was really good. My favorites out of the bunch, though, was the 1.3 and the 1.9. Those are my two favorites. So
That 1.3 is epic.
it really is. I'm still considering buying it myself because I was actually thinking, my daughter really likes shakuhachi, so I was thinking about getting the 1.3 for her to have and play.
It's an incredible flute. If I had that kind of money laying around, it would be mine.
And then the Gyokusui that we were highlighting did sell, so that's no longer here. So the only thing that we're left with specialized flutes that are non-Yozan are the Yamaguchi Shiro flute, and that's pretty much
Hmm.
everything. So
All right. And you also have a free sample lesson thing going on yourself in the because it's been up until recently it's been very difficult to find a time slot in your schedule, but now you've got a few openings.
yeah, so we're expanding the studio. We're having a lot of people who are reaching those higher levels, and with the higher levels comes less lessons, and they're once they're because we have people who are basically at the Shihan level now, and there's not necessarily piece requirements. Then it's basically kind of checkups. Coming in to do a lesson and kind of work on some things, talk about, what you're working on and what you need help with and stuff like that. So weekly lessons aren't necessarily a thing. Some people do, some people don't. So that with that happening, we have just more. More openings in the studio and also expanding to for the future. So definitely check out your look at your schedule, look at your finances, see if Shakuhachi lessons are for you. If not, you can join the membership on this channel, just like Transistors of Today just did. He is in the Okuden level. He said he just bought a Shakuhachi. So happy to start this journey. Thanks, Taidu. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your support. Your membership means the world to us. It helps us make all this stuff happen. And so really appreciative of that. And of course, join us in the Discord, Linus or Svenja. If one of you guys could drop the link for that, it would be amazing.
I'm on it.
And I'm actually, you know what? I'm gonna do this. Look at that. Svenja is now a moderator.
All right.
Look at that. And Sugi Yamakosuke said, "Your outfit really suits you today."
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah, yeah, you sure done did.
Here's our Discord link. Yes.
Yeah,
Um.
and Svenja beat you to it.
Yeah. So yeah, you're wearing suits because you were very excited about the reboot of the show Suits.
No, that was just joking with you on that. There's no
Oh,
reboot.
okay. I
Uh,
was just
yeah.
trying.
No, I have a photo shoot today, and we're doing new headshots and stuff. So I have my kimono. I've got some of my shakuhachis packed up that I'm going to be taking with me to do that, and we're going to get some photos done today as well. For some upcoming concerts, I just need new headshots. I have things that are very dated now. It's been like 4 or 5 years since my last photo shoot.
You got to bust out some cosplay. Get in there. Do the
Well,
com-
I asked him if I could do the whole Kimetsu no Yaiba sort of thing, Demon Slayer, and play
Yeah,
Shakuhachi, and the cameraman said not in my studio, and so then that kind of squashed that idea pretty quickly.
I see. All right. Well, someone's got to have standards. We got
Yeah,
to keep them on
I
the
mean
up and
my
up.
standards are already very low, so I don't, he's really just keeping me afloat at this point.
There you go.
So let's get on to some other topics with Shakuhachi. So we've got all the
Well,
news, we got all the
actually,
business out of the way.
Svenja posed a good question about the idea of small flutes for children. Is it really a good idea? And because one of the limiting factors for those of you, if you're not a player, it might be hard to understand. One of the limiting factors for children
Yeah.
is that their hands just aren't big enough to
Yes.
cover the holes properly until they're of a certain age. And getting them started early, there's a coordination issue as well. The shakuhachi has got a bit of a steep learning curve initially in sound production.
Mhm.
So, what do you think? Is it good for kids to give them like a 1-1 or a 1-3, 1-4,
Yeah.
something like that to get them started?
Absolutely. That's definitely a place that you can start with, and it's usually what I recommend for people who want to do shakuhachi with their kids. Like, so I have people that will come in and they say they want to do lessons, and they'll start playing. And the bigger issue is not actually finding them the instrument; it's the keeping them interested for the long term. So what ends up happening is we'll get them a 1-1 or a 1-3. The finger hole sizes are smaller. They can play it, they can make sounds and everything. And actually kids even in middle school can play a 1.8. It's not an issue. But usually what we do by the time they hit middle school is you give them a 1.6, and then you can do all the lessons on the 1.6. But yeah, when they're really young, 4, yeah, give them a 1.1. That would be my recommendation for that. And they'll be able to do it, no problem. Now sometimes makers will still make the hole sizes too large, and then it's they can't play it. But typically on the smaller flutes, the holes have to be smaller for it all to be balanced out, so they should be able to play it no issue.
That's good. I think, my children, I don't know how other people's families react to the shakuhachi. My children have reached that point where they're like, yeah, that's cool, Dad. I'm going to play pretty much anything but shakuhachi.
Yeah,
you know,
I sort of kind
uh,
of wonder what the whole view is going to be when my kids get older. Like, so Shiloh, what does your dad do? I don't know. He plays some stick. It's
yeah,
probably going to be the reaction.
yeah. Well,
Actually,
and they don't know.
Raphael's when Raphael first started with the studio, he had both of his sons actually played. Um, he has it was one of their son was like 19 or 20, and his other son was 9 at the time. And he was playing he's right here plays the shows on 1.6, and then but afterwards he kind of get over it, and then he went to cello. But actually his son was doing pretty good. He was making sounds, and he was able to play up and down the scale. We didn't quite get to the Medi and Cadi difference stuff, but he was able to do it at 9 years old.
Well, that's pretty good. My son is 10, and he his only the only instrument he's really interested in is keyboards. He wants to play piano, and I'm all in favor of that. But mostly it's for selfish reasons because I like the idea of him having a keyboard in his room and him going up there to practice with headphones. I love it.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a very good point. I mean, we have actually it's one of the things that I've always wanted to have, and since we're planning on you know coming back to the states for a little bit again, one of the things I want is I really want to have a baby grand piano. But then that thought came to mind is, but you have 3 little children.
Yeah,
Think very carefully about the choices you want to make, and so
yeah.
that might stop me from
Listen
doing
to
that.
that.
Now, I did want to bring actually, there was a question that we had from here. Um, Here as in Hear, that's his name, which is terrible to have onto that when you're just speaking. But he asked this. He asked about he wanted someone to review his kadi playing. And
Oh yeah.
and when he was playing it, there was some interesting parts of his playing that was causing issues. And I kind of wanted to highlight some of those things because many people think that there's it has to be this one thing that's messing with their rokari, but it's not. It's usually, you know I might be using this word wrong. It's usually a vicissitude of things. Does that work?
I mean, well, okay. It's not. That's not the way vicissitude is normally used. A vicissitude is normally a sudden, unwelcome change.
Well, I mean, a lot of these are unwelcome changes of things because
Yeah.
something's changing in the embouchure, stuff like that. So, well, that being aside, as a side note, we'll talk about some of those vicissitudes that happen in your playing that
Yes.
make it so that you actually can't get that really nice, rounded, and big sounding row that you're looking for, and also the smaller and more full balanced row. The first place tends to start with just the lips themselves. There are 2 types of ways that we can blow on the shakuhachi: an sotobuki and a uchibuki. So a sotobuki is where we blow the air over the flute and out. That's right. It's called sotobuki. Soto meaning out, and uchi means blowing in. Uchi means inside. So that's blowing over the flute, and then blowing in the flute would be. You can really hear the difference in the sound quality already, where the uchibuki note already falls flat.
Yes.
Okay, so the sotobuki is used for all the kari notes. The uchibuki is used for the medi notes. So when you dip your head down and you blow into the flute, you get those really nice dark colors. If you do that on the sotobuki, changes the color so they don't really feel like merry notes. You lose the darkness of it. Vice versa with the kari notes, if you're not blowing over, then you also lose that. So when people play that rollbuki, sometimes what ends up happening is they shift between the soto and the uchibuki, and they're not quite actually blowing over the flute to get that sound. Okay, so that's the first part of it, right? That jumps right from the beginning of the lips here. Then the next thing that happens is the tongue position. And I've seen weird things. I've seen a lot of weird things in my life. But the tongue, sometimes people will put behind the lip, anchored behind the bottom teeth, sometimes floating, and then other times in other like, positions that cause a lot of turbulence in the sound. So no matter how well your embouchure is set up, if your tongue position isn't set up well too, then it also can inhibit you having a really nice, clear, and consistent tone. So when I explain people how I explain people to people to make their first sound, and this is also in the ultimate beginner's guide for shakuhachi, is the ah oo pattern. And the reason why we do the ah oo pattern is because ah is for the tongue position and oo is for the lip shape. Ah for the tongue pattern, oo for the lip shape. Now let's say you have that really nice setup, but the tongue is in the way. Right? That's me anchoring the tongue behind the teeth. It's not very clear. It's not you're not getting that kind of boomy sound. And if you push it, you're going to basically just jump up the octave. Now, let's say I put the tongue and it's kind of floating. Got even worse. All right? Now, let's say if I put it behind the lip. Okay, now we get kind of overtones and it's really hard to get any sort of power out of it. Now, let me go back to that ah position where the tongue is flat and relaxed. There's the full sound of the shakuhachi. And there's another tongue position which can make it even deeper. Now, it doesn't end there. It goes even further. Now we're just going to move back and go into the throat. Now, if the throat is tight, you also lose a lot of sound because you don't have anything that's going to help resonate the flute. So you have to open up the throat almost like as if you're yawning, that it feels like everything here kind of relaxing right in the larynx. If it's tight, you get this sound. If it's open, you'll get that sound. And then it continues onward and onward. And you can keep going through all of these different body parts and how they affect the sound of the instrument, including your shoulders, including elbows, including your lower belly, your lower back, solar plexus, and so on and so forth. So there are many things that can affect that sound. So if you're struggling with getting a row, don't just always assume that it's your embouchure. Don't assume it's your breathing. Don't just assume anything. It could be one of many different facets of your playing that's causing that issue.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of variables, and there are things that you wouldn't necessarily think of right off the bat. That's one of the reasons that it's good to have a community. It's good to have a teacher, but failing that, it's good to have a community that you can bounce things off of. So,
Absolutely.
yet again, a good reason to join our Discord and hop in there. It's a very friendly group. Um, no one's going to make fun of you. I mean, we it's not like other musical communities you may have encountered on the internet.
Absolutely. It's nothing like really, it's nothing like that. I had somebody who emailed me last night. They had it was another Shakachi player. He saw my interview on which we'll get to in a second, but he saw my interview with Unpacking Japan, and he was saying like I kind of lurk around all of the Discord stuff and like all the Shakachi groups, and he's like, by far your group is my favorite out of all of them. And
That's great.
he's a pretty big name in the Shakuhachi world too. So it was really nice to receive that message.
That's great. And I will say from playing, being in the online world of some other instruments, yeah, it's I mean, we might, Sean might ask you, but does it gent? Other than that, it's probably the nicest place on the internet I've ever been for, musical groups. Um, and it's not competitive. I feel like there's a lot of really competitive stuff, like in the guitar world. It's a very competitive environment, and it's not like that with shakuhachi. Everybody wants to see everyone else succeed.
Yeah, I definitely feel that sentiment very strong in our Discord, and I'm not really quite sure why that's the case. So like why it was built that or how it got built that way, because a lot of times when you get those sort of those sort of groups that pop up, no matter what instrument it is, there's always that sort of infighting and it's a very hostile environment. But here it's I mean, I think I can only think of like maybe one occasion that was ever problematic.
Mm. Yeah, and it's really been, in my experience with online communities,
Mm.
it hasn't also developed into the factions that you frequently see, and that
Uh,
doesn't really seem to be the case.
yeah,
There's not,
it's
a us and them.
no, not at all. It really does feel like a very nice rounded group of people who are interested in other people's opinions and viewpoints on Shakuhachi. So I really love I mean, I love reading through all the stuff. I don't always reply to everything, but I mean, I like reading through it, especially if I'm, waiting at the gas station for the gas to fill up, and if I'm waiting for my wife who's going running into the store, or what have you, reading through them at night, and it's actually really enjoyable just to see everything that gets posted.
Yeah, and there's some fascinating stuff going on in there. And also, we are now having a lot more members that are outside of our studio. We've had a
Oh
lot
yes.
of voices of people who are playing in other styles, which is really interesting as well. So it's really great that it's growing the way it is. And
Hmm.
that, again, if you're listening to this and you're not a member of the Discord, by all means, come join us. Friendly group of people, very welcoming, and also just a wealth of information about shakuhachi, from making to shopping for used shakuhachi to actual technical technique and things like that, and also repertoire questions. Lots of opportunities on our Discord, so come join us.
Mm. No, absolutely. And we're at 587 members right now. There are 53 people online. It's a it's a pretty especially if we look just a year ago compared to that. It's very active compared to what it was before. Now, it's not like most Discord channels where it's like there's a message popping off every second. It's not like that at all. I think it's very tame. It actually kind of feels a little bit more like a what are those, like a man, what are those old forums, like forum channels where you get that kind of feeling, like, if you want to engage in one of the conversations, you can, and if not, you can ignore it completely, and you don't miss anything too, because there's a lot of different channels and stuff that are happening.
Right, you don't come back to it and go, oh my god, I'm 100 messages behind.
No, that
It's
never
not
happens.
quite like that.
That used to happen in the Skype days. So before, and now Skype is now retired completely. So there will be a generation soon who goes, "What's that?" Right?
What's right? Yeah.
So with when we used to do all of our lessons and stuff on Skype, talking to my studio directly, we would have it. We had this kind of the studio family chat, and what would end up happening is, I'd wake up one morning and I'd say 150 messages. Oh boy. And so then you have to go through and read everything to see if there was anything that was mentioned that was important for you to know. But now here, with everything being divvied up, it's very nice to be able to go, oh, you know what? I see that somebody's writing about historical questions, or someone's asking questions about technique, or there's philosophy stuff, or we're talking about people wanting to find a teacher, or whoever, whatever it may be. There's always a point for that. So I only just just to encourage you even more, that you really should sign up for the uh, for the Discord. It's free.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that one of the best things about the Discord is that we get to know each other, even if you've never met the person, in the flesh. You get to know each other, and you get to know kind of what different people's expertises are.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people in our, because there's a lot of questions that come up, and oh, you should ask so and so about that because
Mhm.
that's something he's into or studying or good at.
Yeah.
And it's just the whole idea of having a community, which, if you were trying to have community in the real world with shakuhachi, you're hard pressed
Oh
to
yeah.
get 10 shakuhachi players together in one room. Like, that's difficult to arrange.
That's even difficult to arrange in Japan,
Right,
right?
right.
Like when I've
I
had a couple get-togethers before too, like here, like what I'm saying, like something that's continuous, right? Because you could probably do it in Japan like once or twice to get 10 people in a room, and actually, play stuff and whatever. But to like have a consistent meeting in a place that you can constantly go back to. I mean, I was able to do it with 5 people,
Yeah.
but that was, it was really tough to get it done and have it be
Yeah.
consistent.
So by all means, come join us, and I think you'll be surprised. At the if you have had previous internet experience, you'll be surprised at the atmosphere. Very chill,
Mm,
very calm. And speaking of internet stuff, you mentioned just briefly earlier, you appeared on Unpacking Japan,
yes.
which is well, I guess technically what podcast, vlogcast. What are they
I think they
calling
call
these?
them vlogcasts.
Yeah, so Sean appeared on Unpacking Japan, and it was quite a long interview, like over an hour, right?
Yeah, about an hour and a half.
Yeah, and talked about a lot of different subjects in the shakuhachi world. A little bit about your history as a player, how you came to the instrument, and your progress through it, but also sort of the specifics of what's different about like the apprenticeship process in the shakuhachi as compared to other instruments, like Western instruments,
Yes.
and also your plans for the future, which
Yes.
if those who stayed long enough um, to the end of that interview and got to see just a little touch of Doctor Evil creeping in, Sean.
That's right.
so so do you want to discuss the Shakuhachi New World Order that
Yeah, so I have this thing that I'm working on with a bunch of other Shakachi players, where we're trying to create like a new and like basically what we want to do is we want to expand this Discord idea into like a full online sort of platform. And so the difficulty is having all of the experts to come in. So instead of trying to for me to try to find individuals and just like basically pay out of pocket to make all this stuff happen, what I decided to do is work with those same individuals and create a new organization where we promote all things shakuhachi, whether it be sheet music, lessons, connecting people with students, or connecting people with students and connecting students with teachers. Having a video catalog and resource page that basically connects you. So if you say, "Look, I'm working on this piece," you can click on that piece. It shows you where you can get the score, how you can purchase it, where you can get the parts. Here are videos, and here are different recordings by professionals, and here are recordings by amateurs that you can go and check out for a resource guide. Here's the meaning of the piece. Here's who composed it, all this kind of stuff. So it kind of functions a little bit like the Komuso.com, but it's basically an updated platform of it. But it also is a resource where you can actually take lessons through there. You can learn about all the different schools, and we'll have official representatives that you can sit down, have a lesson with, and talk to about that school, rather than just kind of being like, "Here's a bunch of information that you can't really do anything with. Good luck finding a teacher." And then they keep because there's a lot of people on there, right? And you don't know who's alive and who's dead, and who's just a historical figure, and who's actually actively teaching, and then trying to get all that information updated. It's just not going to happen, at least not with just minimal manpower. So that's what we're working on right now. But we don't want to just make a copy of another website, but actually make something that's innovative and that will really bring in more people to shakuhachi. Because the whole thing is, we need more people to play shakuhachi. We need more people to write music for shakuhachi. We need more professionals playing shakuhachi as like an actual living, and we need more makers. Especially need more makers. That's an area that is of really deep concern for the future of shakuhachi. But yeah, that's basically where we're at right now.
Yeah, you and I were talking earlier about sort of the two of your areas where you'd really like to see growth was that we need new makers, young makers, because
Hmm.
all the sort of famous makers at this point are men who are getting on in years, and they many of them don't have an apprentice or an heir apparent to hand things off to.
Hmm.
And then the other area that you mentioned was new compositions.
Yes.
And I would also be interested in seeing new compositions, but we talked a little bit about my tastes in music, and I have
Sure.
to admit I am not excited by the idea of avant-garde, like, quote, modern music for the shakuhachi. I would like things that are more melodic and
Yeah.
less 21st century. Like, I would like things that have a sort of a melodic showing for the instrument,
Well,
harmonic.
one thing that we have to remember too is that oh, the village cat is back. There he is. One of the things we have to remember is that Schoenberg and Puccini were modern contemporaries. So we sometimes have to remember that those neoclassicists, those neo-romantic guys are still around and they're still, you know, composing music. And one of the examples of that is actually one of our studio members, Kevin Ha, who is a more very soon a doctor of music, but he's finishing up his DMA program, and he wrote a piece for shakuhachi and piano. It's absolutely gorgeous, very melodic, very beautiful, wonderful piece. I can't wait to play it next year, and I liked it so much that I commissioned him to do another one. So just write another piece, and don't make it the same, but keep it nice and melodic and beautiful like you did. And of course I wrote a couple pieces, and I'm hoping to reopen my call for scores from composers. I really want to do that again and focus on chamber music this time. The first 20 pieces I did were all solo stuff, and solo stuff is nice, but you do want to collaborate with other musicians. So the next one's going to be call for scores and call for commissions to do shakuhachi and chamber music.
That sounds lovely. I still want to. I still have the dream of electrifying the shakuhachi.
We can do that. I mean, look, I already did that with the Waterfall's Voice and all of the people I worked with at the Jerusalem Academy of Music and Dance. You can electrify it and feed it through a loop and give it distortion and everything.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to hear. I'd like to see where just like the harmonica and the saxophone, they have sort of an overdriven sound that they get putting it through an amp. I think it would be really fun to run the shakuhachi through a tube amp, especially where you could get that kind of those sort of artifacts that you get from
Yeah,
that kind of amplification.
yeah.
And I think it'd be really fun.
It needs a wah wah pedal.
Yeah, I mean the obvious pedal for shakuhachi is chorus, right? You want to add a chorus pedal and just thicken everything up and make it sound like you've got backup singers. But it would also be I think fascinating to just a straight overdrive,
Hmm.
just give it that little bit of distortion edge, and especially if you're able to, be careful with it, tune it in so that you still got a clean tone, but when you come up in volume, things begin to break up in a pleasant way. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But I'm starting to sound like a guitar wank right now, so I'm going to stop.
Well, you can have like 600 pedals, and but
Yeah, it's one of the beauties of the shakuhachi is that I haven't bought a pedal in like 6 years,
mhm.
and I'm sure my wife is happy about that.
Nystrom says chorus and reverb would be a good fit.
Yeah, absolutely. I've fooled around a little bit with a chorus effect, not a pedal, but a
Hmm.
chorus like in the computer. And yeah, you can really do some lovely things, like really thicken things up and make it so that, because the other problem that you hear with a lot of recorded shakuhachi is that the person, you're looking at a video of someone standing out in a field, and then the audio that comes along with it sounds like that person is in a cave.
Yeah,
And so you
yeah,
have to be careful with how much reverb, not getting carried away. And the
yeah.
chorus pedal is a nice intermediary step in that direction.
I feel like reverb is kind of like a either we can assume it to be something like salt and pepper, or it can be something like a French sauce. Too much of that sauce, and it's like, wait, I ordered chicken, didn't I? No, I thought I didn't
Where's
think I thought I didn't order soup, did I? So
Yeah. where's the food,
Yeah,
right?
where's the
It's all
food?
content.
We also got Boss Octave OC5. That would be cool. Okay, so I'm like 5 octaves lower. It's like who needs a 6.6 when I have a when I have when I have the Boss Octave OC5?
I used to run an octave pedal on my ukulele,
That's nice.
which was fun, you know, and it was set up in such a way that it only if I played the standard tuning ukulele, it didn't work terribly well. But if I had a linear tuning on the ukulele, the two low strings, I could click the pedal and then play bass lines if I wanted to. Um, and at various points in the band when I was in Korea, we sometimes didn't have a bass player, and I would cover bass lines on the uke, and it wasn't the greatest bass sound in the world, but in the mix of a band, it worked quite well. I think
Hmm.
you could do some fun things with that too, or just an octaver, you know, so that not only throwing out the bass, but also just taking whatever note you're playing and multiplying it.
Yeah, it'd be kind of nice to have like a 2 octave thing going at the same time and playing kind of like some fast eighth note lines, especially if you have something that's like a running line, almost like
Yeah,
kind of looking like a jazz bass line maybe. So you gotta get
yeah,
those like
and then you need a looper.
that kind of stuff. You get that that kind of stuff would be very cool on it. So again, all of these things are not just hypothetical; they're very possible. So get out your pencils and staff paper and write it down and say this is a piece for solo shakuhachi with guitar pedals that are fed through a live tube amp. Um, the thing that's really nice about the university is that a lot of times when I go to those places, if they say, "What do you want to do?" and I'll say, "Well, I want to perform this new piece. It's a new commission by this guy who lives in over there and whatever." And they go, "Okay, cool. What do you need?" I need a tube amp. I need these 3 guitar pedals and stuff. They'll go, we have all of that. So
Yeah.
we can make it happen. I don't have to go out and buy all this stuff. Just walk over to the university and do it. Now, but if you say I need a line 6 amp that's a 12 by 36 from the year 2003. Okay, now that won't happen. Okay?
Yeah.
You don't get
Yeah.
to be that specific. But
Yeah, and I mean, I don't have grand dreams. I just want to run it through a Blues Junior, you know, and little 30-watt amp. It's good enough for most places you would want to play shakuhachi anyway, most venues.
mhm.
But yeah, I definitely think that's an unexplored possibility. And I feel like just like the saxophone, which has a lot of sonic textures, you can do a lot of things with the saxophone's basic tone. The shakuhachi has even more available sort of basic possibilities, and being able to modify those, I think, could be really interesting.
Oh,
Although
absolutely.
I think you run in the direction of, I imagine 10 years from now, Sean on stage with a looper, you know, laying down a beatbox track and then soloing over it like Ed Sheeran with a shakuhachi.
We could do that.
Yeah, be cool.
I use a fractal act, which simulates just about any pedal and amp combo. I'm sure studios have similar. I know about that actually, and they're crazy. It's literally like 2,000 possible combinations on them. You can literally do anything with it. So I this entire conversation is getting me dangerously close to buying this stuff. So let's move on to a new topic before I go to Amazon and buy myself a tube amp that I don't need.
Raphael says shoegaze shakuhachi. Shoegaze is, for those of you who are not familiar with that genre, I'm not even going to explain it. I'm going to say just go to YouTube and type in shoegaze classics and light up a clove cigarette and have a little trip back in time.
Yeah, we're gonna pull this up. Shoegazing music. I'll send a link to everybody. Yeah, man. There are some things that are
Oh,
it's
My Bloody Valentine. See, Raphael and I, we're kindred souls. My Bloody Valentine. Mm.
mhm. Yeah. Like also if you guys have something want to have really fun in the comments or if we really have a good time is go read the comments to those videos. You know?
Yeah, shoegaze was not only a time, it was a place. It was a time and a place for me. But yeah, no, shoegaze is boy. It actually came up just yesterday. I was looking also someone sent me a bunch of stuff on hyperpop. And I was like, I could talk about, shakuhachi within hyperpop, and then I was like, no, it would take so long to explain hyperpop that like we don't the live stream's not long enough.
It's true.
And to go back to like, all right, so back in the 80s there was this band called the Cocteau Twins. And
Yeah, and
start from there and begin to explain forward.
and then an hour and a half later, and that's where we are today.
And that is hyperpop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. So, anyways, we'll kind of go one last run for any questions that people have for the today's live stream, and then we'll call it a close. So, any other questions you have on your inlines or any other topics that we need to go over today?
The only other thing that we were going to talk about was we mentioned just briefly the idea about humor in shakuhachi, and we talked about it last time. And then you mentioned that the Unpacking Japan folks
Yep.
were also interviewing Sunshine.
Yes, Katsura Sunshine.
Yeah, the Rakugo entertainer, and I think it's a legitimate question. The shakuhachi does kind of, to the outsider, does kind of have a very serious veneer, right?
Hmm.
It's either meditative or sometimes kind of melancholy, or even the really energetic pieces have a certain feeling of seriousness to them.
Sure.
So, like, in terms of humor, like the only piece that really pops into my mind that can be humorous to me right on the surface is maybe Mushizukyo. And you've got all the insect noises, and it's really easy to make that piece humorous, like when playing it for children.
Hmm.
So, do you have any thoughts on that? Like, what would you see as an opportunity to be humorous with the shakuhachi?
It's gonna have to be like in the. I mean, think of it like a Victor Borge, right?
Yeah.
I mean, of course, like you can do a bunch of things that in that sort of vein. Roy Clark was very similar in that vein too, just for country music instead. And so it's more about the individual being lighthearted, not the music, because even Igudisman and Jew, they'll play Rachmaninoff's Second Piano Concerto, but they make it absolutely hysterical, and it's a very serious work, right? In that sense.
Mm.
So it's really about the individual's creativity and innovative outlook to make the music more accessible to people through humor. So it's not like you have to you have to do something silly inside the music or purposely play bad in order for people to take interest. You just have to be like a comedian and take a huge risk and get it where people may not laugh at all, and you have to go, well, that bombed, and that's on that's basically I'm burning in oil right now. But
Yeah.
that the thing is that you have to have fun with it. You just have to do it.
Yeah, I have to admit, that's not fun is not a word that I think people outside the shakuhachi community would use to describe the shakuhachi. People say things like, "Oh, it's very evocative," or "It's very it's melancholy or atmospheric." These are words that you hear used to describe the shakuhachi. So
Mhm.
it's definitely something that I think about a lot because I mean, everything is a joke to me. So
Mhm. That's because you're a sociologist, and that's what that does to you.
I don't think this has anything to do with being a sociologist. I think this has to do with being an attention whore.
Are
You're
you, are you okay? You want to talk about it?
maybe later we can get together, cup of coffee, and talk about my issues.
Well,
No, actually,
okay.
I think that the comedy thing. one thing that made Victor Borga so good was that he was such a great piano player.
Yes.
And so I feel very strongly that like for anything comedic to work, the music that goes along with it, whatever it is, has to be just rock solid. If you look at like one of the great comedy groups of all time, the Smothers Brothers, they were quite funny, but part of what made it work was the fact that the folk tunes they were playing were just absolutely squared away, like completely nailed down, perfect vocal harmonies, great players on their instruments, and funny on top of it all. So it's the comedy thing is not a quick out. If anything, it makes I think it's harder than to just go out and play the instrument straight, you know. But yeah, definitely something that I think should be worth looking into.
I mean, I've done. I did a Rakugo performance once here in Japan, and I did a little bit of it myself, and I would tell people stories about my personal experiences with shakuhachi, and tell them how when I would make a mistake in Japanese or something like that, and like of course I'm telling the story in Japanese, telling them about my mistake in Japanese, so the people really get it and they think it's hilarious. Um, and I mean, really about reading the audience and kind of having set material that works really well already
Yeah.
for it, that you think that will actually make people laugh, and but you also have to be ready for people to not accept it. So it's a huge risk, but the reward for it will be incredible. And yeah, I mean, we can't just leave shakuhachi in this little tiny box that we've nicely made for it, which is like, oh, you're this meditative instrument and that's all you can do, and that's really not okay. It's so much more than that.
Yeah, I think that the you and I were discussing briefly in before the stream the the sort of compartmentalizing of the shakuhachi as and it happens to other instruments as well. You hear people talk about uh, like world percussion, for example, the
Hmm.
drums that are sort of not the traditional drums you would hear in an orchestra,
Sure.
and they are very pigeonholed. They're very locked into a certain sound and a certain uh, sort of what's considered appropriate use of that instrument.
Sure.
And that's why we all need to break out and play whatever we want to play. And we need more covers of the Backstreet Boys and Barbie Girl on Shakuhachi.
Is this like a thing that you put on like your wall, like a post-it stamp? It's like, don't forget to mention that in the live stream.
No, it's just that that particular set of covers was just, it's so present in my mind. It lives rent free in my head, Sensei.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll give you a few other ones on in the 50K when we get there, which we are approaching. We're now at 47,800 subs. So we'd like to see that jump up to 50K and
Yeah.
go from there.
Sign up your significant other. Like get them to join. They don't, you know, they won't know.
That's right.
Just
Just log into their YouTube and subscribe and just turn off notifications. They'll never
right.
know, right? They'll never
Never
know.
mind.
No one's gonna know. They're gonna know. No one is gonna know.
That's right. Yeah, no one's gonna
But
know.
I will say that this live stream itself is part of it, right? Whether it's extraordinarily successful or not is besides the point. The main point about this live stream is that there is actually is something that we can have, that we have something live to talk about shakuhachi. We have a Discord group where there's a place where people can talk about shakuhachi, because that's the thing I think is lacking, is places where people feel very welcome in order to express how much they like shakuhachi, and or share what they have, or whether they're an absolute beginner and can't make anything but air, versus like a full-on professional, and having like those people all being in the same room and being able to enjoy each other's company. That's what's really difficult.
Yes. Well, and by the way, you mentioned this with this live stream. We're going to be changing our live stream schedule
Oh yes,
slightly
this is really important. So next
starting.
week, yeah, next week we're going to be using a new live stream time. And so next week we will be starting at Japan 10 a.m. So it'll be 3 hours from the usual start time. So today we started at 7 a.m. So just remember what time you came today. and think 3 hours from now, that will be, or well, now 2 hours from now, that will be our start time for next week and moving onward for that. And now the nice thing about this too is that you will be here in person.
That's true. I will be in the Taidu Studios situation room. That's
Yes,
where you see Sean.
in the situation room. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be there in person, and that definitely does give a different vibe. And also, it'll be a little later in the day, so I will be a little closer to normal brain
Yeah,
activity
your beard
by then.
will have been tamed at that point.
That's right. That's right. It is a process, and I have been asked in the past to make a daily beard care video, and just I just can't get the funding. Like it's gonna take like days to shoot. So
Absolutely. All right. And last thing here is Sugiyama Kosuke says that Tsugi no toki wa tanoshimi ni shite imasu. Yes, thank you very much. Look forward to having you here as well. And yeah, let's support Shakuhachi as much as you can. Take lessons, sign up for the membership, like and subscribe to the channel, join the Discord. What else do we need to say? I think that's pretty much about it. So Linus, take us out.
yes, do all of those things, and as always, row for 10.